and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and joining me tonight is longtime record label marketing and branding executive Brian Nolan. Brian currently serves as the president of global marketing and sync for APG, otherwise known as Artist Partner Group, and his responsibilities include overseeing all domestic and international marketing, artist development, sales, streaming, sync, and brand partnerships initiatives. Prior to joining APG, he spent 6 years at Universal Music Group, with his final role serving as the executive vice president at Motown, where he brokered deals for artists like Lil Baby, Halsey, and Migos. So, Brian, it's so great to have you join the podcast. Are you ready to dive into these questions?
Thank you for having me, Rachel. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give him on a personal note, and what one piece of advice would you give him from a business perspective?
So I would say, starting with personal, I would tell him to really lean in on who you are, and what makes you unique, what makes you, have your specific superpowers. Because what I found is leaning into who you are as a person can really help develop the confidence and the way that you play your game. And so you are, if you try to be somebody else, if you aspire to be someone else other than who you are, it's going to be a much tougher road than leaning into who you really are as a person. And on the professional level, I would tell him to embrace being uncomfortable at an early age, because that is a way to go about doing things that will ultimately lead you to being able to be very comfortable later in life and the decisions that you have to make. Because the flip side, if you choose to be comfortable early on and maintain that mindset, you will be forced to make very uncomfortable decisions the older you get. I've been very blessed to have taken an approach of being uncomfortable my entire career, which has allowed me to be in incredible positions like the role I'm in now at APG.
Looking back, do you have any particular moment where you were like, I was so uncomfortable in this situation, and that turned it around for you going forward?
Yeah, I would say I was in 2013. I moved out to Los Angeles to run creative sync for Columbia Records, and really enjoyed that. Was doing original content. Really felt like I was in my element on the sync side. We had an incredible repertoire. And at the end of 2015, I got an opportunity to move back to New York and to run international marketing for Columbia, of which I had previous zero experience. So those 2 years of running international, I was incredibly uncomfortable learning, but growing at a very rapid rate in terms of my knowledge of the global marketplace. And so ever since then, I really leaned into, okay, if I'm going to grow as an executive and to get where I want to go, that was an experience that I call upon almost daily, because I understand that provided me the opportunity to do what I'm doing now.
That's great. Moving right along, question 2. Every industry has its dirty little secrets, and you and I both know that it's no different in the music industry. Sometimes people think that's a bad thing, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they can be good. What's one secret you'd like to share with our listeners about the industry?
That's a great question. The secret that I would like to share is that every job that is needed that can create significant value is not necessarily on the org chart, meaning that what previously had been determined to sit in a certain box, because the industry moves so quickly and so rapidly, there are lots of things that can be done or can be created to create significant value for your artists, for your company. And so constantly not being tied into what is previously dictated of what a role can be is a great way for opportunity and growth. And if you're able to understand the landscape and to find areas that previously were not maybe valued at a certain level, or you're able to prove out what can be an incredible opportunity for the artists, that's something that is not going to just be given to you. You have to take those opportunities and not be bound by what previously may have been, the status quo.
So what would you tell somebody that's just entering college and they're looking for their first internship, and they're in their brain, they're like, well, I need to go into marketing or A&R or like one of the main areas. But right now there's so many, like you said, you could be in an AI role.
Yeah, no, it's true. And one thing I will say to the younger future executives, and I'll steal this line from Mark Pitts, who I heard about it through J. Cole, and his quote was, learn the game to change the game, right? You got to learn and play the game, then you can change the game. So I think you have to have a decent understanding of the game you're playing before you can change it. So, for the younger people who are in internships or coming out of college or not in college yet, I would encourage them to learn and play the game and then understand where their needs are so you can ultimately change the game, which is, I think, where the intersection of the entrepreneurs, the visionaries, and the executors live.
Last question. Here we go. Throughout your career, I can only imagine you've been asked plenty of questions, whether for industry conferences, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all of those interviews and all of those questions, there has to be one that you've never been asked but would have liked to. So what is that question, and what would be your answer?
I want to frame it in a way that it's one thing that I think APG does very well. And that would be really learn to understand that delivering maybe negative news or bad news is as important as delivering good news, because we're always trying to excel and forward our artist campaigns, and you can't just focus on the good. You have to focus on what needs to be improved. And so really embracing delivering the news that isn't as rosy as the good news is extremely important. And I will tell you that that's one thing that I've learned in a way that's been incredible from Mike Karen, our CEO and founder. And it's something that I stress with my team, because not everything is going to be great all the time. There's always going to be circumstances that we need to overcome. And the quicker we can do that, the better chance we have of succeeding. So that's one thing that I feel very strongly about. And I myself continue to grow in that field also.
So real quick before we go, I'm curious. So you came from Motown, which is part of UMG, a wider corporation, and now APG is on its own, independent. So what's the biggest difference there?
I would say the ability to move extremely quickly and to understand where the marketplace is, at a faster level. We are while we are a small team, we're a very efficient team, and we are not bound by many, by maybe the red tape or other things that need to go through a longer level of approvals. So I really love the workflow and the way that this company is run. And I think it prepares artists to have the best chance of success in this current model and future model of music industry, which is drastically different than it was a year and a half ago, even a month ago. We're talking about AI, we're talking about automation, and if you're behind by even a month, you're way behind. So I really think that an organization like Artist Partner Group is set up to succeed in the current and future music business, which is why I'm so thrilled to be a part of this team.
Well, Brian, thanks you again for joining me. And to everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Stay tuned for next week, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking 3 powerful questions. See you next time.